Hey guys, in the following podcast, you're going to hear the E2 expert IELTS teacher Alex talk to another E2 expert IELTS teacher Anna about the IELTS writing criteria and why it is people get stuck on IELTS 6 or IELTS 6.5 all the time, okay? So in this video, they're going to deep dive into that checklist that the examiners use to mark your writing and explain in detail why it is that people sometimes get stuck. Cool, I hope you enjoy it. If you're stuck on your IELTS, remember you can go to e2language.com, sign up for free, join some of our live classes, and there's heaps of stuff on the website. Anyway, enjoy the podcast.
Hi, I'm Alex from E2 Language, and today I'm going to be talking to one of our expert tutors, an E2 legend actually, which is Dr. Anna. Dr. Anna is one of our teachers and live class teachers, also just an all-round linguistics hero and one of our most popular teachers here at E2 Language. And she's going to talk to us today about IELTS writing. In particular, we're going to focus on IELTS writing task 2 and talk about how to boost your score up to band 7 and band 8. So Anna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, Alex. I'm really, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's wonderful to be here with you to talk about IELTS task 2.
Yes, our favorite topic.
It is one of our favorite topics indeed.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and also how long you've been at E2 and what your role is with us?
Okay, so at E2, I've been with E2 for 2 years now, and I'm an expert tutor, which means it's like over 1,000 tutorials, right?
Wow, yes.
So that's quite a nice number. And most of the time, I've had so much fun, in fact. So it's hard work, but it's fun at the same time. I also mark the assessments, which I really love marking and going through what the students have written and help them out with what they need to improve. I also like to write blogs whenever I have the chance. I'd love to have the chance to write more blogs. And so I'm a linguist. In fact, I'm an applied linguist, as they call it. That means that I have studied like for many years, decades maybe, how the process of learning a foreign language. Because you have the applied linguist is specialized on learning how to study a foreign language, learning a foreign language in particular. And in my case, it's English. So because I speak like 3 languages and I'm now studying my 4th language. So
what's that one?
So I speak French and English because I was born and I grew up in Canada. My mom is Brazilian, so she taught me Brazilian Portuguese. And now I'm starting to study Arabic because of my ancestors.
Wow, okay.
I know, yeah.
A broad
so
spectrum.
So I'm taking classes for Arabic.
Online?
Yes, online.
The best way?
So yes, the best way indeed. So language is something that I've always loved, and I've strived to work with foreign students and English as a foreign language because it seems that you empower, it empowers the students to learn English as a foreign language.
Yeah, I think working in high stakes testing like IELTS preparation, PTE, we really get to see what's at stake for the students who are preparing for these tests. It's their whole life. Often it's their further study, it's immigration. It comes down to, it means so much to them, and it's a very stressful preparation period, which is why I guess we try to implement our methods and our systems and feedback to really help them overcome this obstacle and move on with their life so that they're not stuck preparing for IELTS forever. And so I think that's something that we've talked about quite a lot, and why we set up this podcast was to address that issue of students who are stuck at 6 or 6.5. They're taking the test over and over. And so during this session, we're going to talk about why that happens, and then your experience in helping students overcome that, reach band 7, 7.5. And then let's look at each criterion in a bit of detail and talk about the problems students face and what they can do to do better.
Definitely.
All
Let's
right.
see.
So I'll let you talk about it. The students who are stuck on 6 and 6.5, in your experience as a tutor and also marking the assessments, what do you think are the main reasons why somebody cannot score band 7?
Well, firstly, we know how disappointing it is when they get that result, and principally when they get it over and over, because they've had so many attempts, and it's so disappointing when they get that result of 6.5, because principally 6.5, when they're aiming for a 7, it's just that little push. So from what I see, and I really love talking to the students after they have succeeded, because then they give us a lot of feedback, and they confirm that the methods really is the essence of it. When they follow the methods, they feel confident.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that they're able to manage their time better. But essentially, where they lag the most, firstly, many of them, they try to do a self-study plan. So they try to study on their own, and they grasp things from the internet. And sometimes there are so many myths on the internet. They have to be very careful with that.
Yes.
And it takes a specialist, an expert in IELTS, to really provide a good study plan, a well-structured study plan that they can follow and progress, or else they won't be able to progress and to see progress in their writing.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah. There aren't many points, but there are a few points that I have seen through experience. Many of them also they have a lot of trouble with managing their time in their writing. It seems something so obvious that you have to learn how to manage your time. There's a clock, look at the clock, and it's like, it seems easy, but it's not. They really get stuck. They don't have time to review what they wrote, so they end up handing in an essay with silly spelling mistakes, and that's where the score goes down.
You know, I think it was a real eye-opener when we introduced the mock test at E2, and the assessors were saying, the students submitted their mock test, but there's a task 1 in there and then 5 words of a task 2. So we realized they're mismanaging their time so badly that they're spending what seems like 59 minutes on task 1, 1 minute on task 2. So it's a real lesson for the students, and also a lesson for us that we've really got to push them, not just to know, they know you've got to write for 40 minutes, you've got to write for 20 minutes, but can you actually do it? Have you actually done it before the test? That's a completely different thing. And have you done it over and over and over as well?
Definitely. And so that's another thing. They have to practice. It's like crucial to get a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. And I don't like giving numbers, but many of them say, okay, how much do I have to practice? But you can kind of like give an idea. And I always like to say that it's like 20. 20 is the number. And I can explain why. Mm-hmm. If you consider that in task 2, you have an average 9 different types, right? If the student is taking the academic, then he has another 8 different types in academic writing. Mm-hmm. So that means 20 is just like one of each.
Right, yeah.
It's not even enough, honestly speaking, right? Yeah. One of each. So I always say you need to have a number of essays written and to get feedback on that. Mm-hmm. Not only write, but you need the feedback on it in order to really see progress. Mm-hmm. So as I said, I don't like to give numbers, but I think that it's very easy to understand at least 20, you know, if you're an academic test taker. And if you're a general, at least like 15 would be minimum.
Yeah.
But of course, double would be the perfect number, because that would give you a chance of doing it once, getting feedback, and then another one trying to incorporate all of the mistakes that you have, eliminate the mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And the students that you've worked with, I remember you saying some of them, they were writing every day. Is that something that also you would recommend leading up to the test?
Definitely. Because it's an hour a day for you to write the 2 tasks. So, I mean, if you're really an IELTS prep test taker, you need to put in at least that 1 hour a day, ideally 2 hours a day, so that you could still have time for the other skills. But it's the best way to go. It's to practice writing every day.
Mm-hmm. And that the type of practice as well, the way we've structured our live class curriculum, where we have a class that works on skills and vocab a bit more, and then a class that works on really the time management, where they write the full task in the time. Is that something else that you would recommend, doing both types of practice?
Definitely. The live classes, they guide the student. They help the student focus on the necessary elements to produce a well-written and well-structured essay and or task one. Now, another element that can't be forgotten is that reading is the foundation of language. And every student, in order to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader. And that is fundamental. Mm-hmm. But what should the student be reading? At this moment that he's an IELTS prep, he's preparing for IELTS, he has to read well-structured material, authentic and varied in topics. Mm-hmm. So we have lots of recommendations. We in the live classes we recommend. So in your videos you recommend frequently. In our toolkits as well, there's recommendation for the readings. But that is something that the students should set aside, I would say daily, 30 minutes a day,
Yeah, I agree. I think, and the difference you see when a student, in class, if the student has done the preparatory reading or they've read something on that topic, the difference in the quality of their writing is incredible. Just having a little bit of a grounding and a little bit of sort of activating that vocab and those ideas before they start writing can make a massive difference. So as they're preparing for the test, I agree, reading widely, so important. What are your favourite reading resources to recommend?
Well, I really like Science Daily, and the reason why I like it is because the texts in it are so well structured, and the material is very authentic. So it screams IELTS. It's like exactly what IELTS presents in the reading material. And it offers the student the opportunity of variety because they have health, technology, environment, which are very hot topics for IELTS. Now, something that's very interesting in IELTS, and maybe some students haven't realized that, but suddenly you practice a speaking material, and that topic of the speaking material suddenly can be your writing task. And sometimes you practice a writing task that can be your speaking task.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to get lots of practice and read a lot, to have a lot of information to be able to develop the topics well.
I think that's a good side effect of IELTS preparation, even though it can be traumatic for people. But it's teaching it and developing materials like we do. You're always learning something so interesting. So even for us native speakers, we're picking up, definitely great ideas and reading about new scientific developments and things like that. It's just a good general knowledge booster.
Definitely. And it's interesting how we also learn a lot from the students, isn't it? They have so much to share. They have so much, and they have a lot of information too. And maybe they're not even aware of that. So that's also something that I really like about teaching the tutorials. You meet wonderful people and you share, and they have a lot of information. Sometimes they take for granted the information that they know.
Yeah, let's come back to that when we talk about task response as well, how students can draw on their own knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a few of your success stories? I know if anybody looks at our Facebook reviews or our Trustpilot, they'll see, I love Dr. Anna, she saved my life. What are some of the people that you've helped in IELTS writing?
There are so many. I'm grateful to all of them because they really come back and they let us know. They send in their results. Some of them even pop up in the live classes. Say, hey, I got it. The other day, one student said, oh, I see a beautiful 7 in my score report. So it's like the most beautiful 7. I said, indeed it is. So I had several students, but Maria was one that was quite, it was quite a challenge. She had taken IELTS 8 times. She was devastated and she was like almost hopeless. And suddenly we started working together and I really pushed her hard. But she also responded. She was, tireless. She worked hard every single day. And she was very insecure because she would get straight 8s and 9s in like reading, listening, and speaking. And the writing was always 6. So we worked together and she came back with an 8.
Wow.
So she was delighted. I know. It was, I cried, honestly. It was like joy, tears of joy. And we called each other on WhatsApp because she really wanted to talk to me. So it was so rewarding working with Maria.
What a jump.
She's young. No, she was like 19 years old, very young. Yes.
And what were the changes that you helped her to implement in her writing?
Okay, so basically, she really wasn't aware that her grammar mistakes, I mean, she had never had any kind of feedback. So that was something that I think that was lagging for her. So she had high frequency grammatical and lexical errors. So that was something that we really worked on. And because that really limits the quality of the response, right? When you have high frequency of grammar and lexical errors.
That's it. Yeah, we really, that's classic 6, isn't it? Just high error density, even though the ideas, everything might be clear, but just that the number of errors, you're not going to get a 7 or 8 if there are too many.
Yeah, and she had no idea. As I said, she had never had a tutor. She had until then had her own self-study plan with, bits and pieces that she would grab from the internet.
Yeah.
So thank goodness she came to us, and as I say, she was very successful. Then I also had Marco, which was a very interesting experience. Marco is, he's from Argentina and he lives in Germany, and he needed the IELTS 7, at all costs. But he came to us like 1 week before the test. Yeah, but he had already written it several times, and he is a master's student, so he does have some kind of level of education in terms of knowledge. So we worked every day. He had 5 tutorials. We worked from Monday to Friday, and he took his test on Saturday, and he came back also. But he was tireless also. He worked hard. He did 20 writings in 5 days.
Wow. And what was his score in the end?
7.5 in writing, and 8, and 9, like in listening, he got 9.
Beautiful.
So that was also amazing.
And
then there's Ahmed. Ahmed was quite an experience because he's a doctor. He's in England now, and he needed the IELTS to pursue his PhD studies. And he had also taken it 3 times. It was his 4th time. And he was lagging in developing ideas. That's where he was stuck. He had good grammar, good vocabulary, but he couldn't extend his main ideas very well. So we worked hard on that. He also came to us like 2 days before the test.
Oh, dear.
So he had tutorials previously, but when I met him, it was like 2 days before the test. So, and I pinpointed it. He sent back writings with correcting. He took all his previous writings that he had done and tried to, brush up in terms of developing his ideas and, extending the main idea.
Well, that's so good to be able to, once you raise awareness of something like that, or, we talk often about mechanical linking, and the students come back and say, oh, I've just checked my old essays and I can see the problems that I was making. They can see it for themselves, which is, a real obstacle that has already been overcome.
Now, there's something that I like to do with the students, and it's like a routine, a teacher routine, is that every time they get feedback, they list their mistakes so that they're really aware, make a list of the mistakes, and then look into those issues. So if they're having article issues, for instance, I always recommend Amber's videos. She has 3 amazing videos, and she has one that is when not to use the article. So it's not something that we see frequently, but it's so helpful. So I have the students list the mistakes and send me the list so that we can work on that. And we learn a lot from mistakes. It's incredible. It's very productive to work on your mistakes.
Absolutely. So should we go into sorry.
No, but I would say there are so many other students that I would love to mention, but it's very rewarding to see them come back with those scores, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And that's also great when they come into the live class, because it's so encouraging for the other students to see, particularly somebody to go from band 6 to 8, just to show them it's possible, it can happen. And even those who do it in a short period of time, those big jumps are possible with good guidance and feedback, which you offer. Should we talk about the criteria, each one in detail, and we'll just cover what problems we've seen in our experience and what we sort of recommend to help the students make that jump. So the first one in writing task 2 is task response, which is all about answering the question, clear position, idea development, supporting with examples and evidence. So what would you say? You mentioned, was it Ahmed who had the problem of idea development? Do you think that's the most common problem that people have? They don't take their ideas far enough?
Well, in terms of task response, yes, that is definitely. But also I see that not they struggle with expressing their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think that we revisit some concepts, and in the past, if the question did not ask to express your opinion, you just didn't put your opinion in it. And based on experience and the students' feedback, you have to put in your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very funny video that you and Jay recorded about this. And okay, so the writer of this essay thinks this, right?
Yeah.
So no, you have to put in your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
clear. It has to be clear. So they're very reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
So if the question does not ask, what is your opinion? They really feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But after they do it and they succeed, they come back saying, okay, yes, it's true. And in the band descriptors, it's very clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to express a clear opinion throughout the response.
Yeah. Well, clear opinion, clear position, and you're right, that's our message now, is to just err on the side of safety. So if the examiner's looking for an opinion, whether or not it's been asked for, we give it anyway. And for something like problems and solutions, I would tell them, if you're saying these are the problems and these are some solutions, that is your opinion. That's still coming from you. So that works as a position as well. You don't need to say, I agree, this is a problem or this isn't a problem, but just saying, I feel that these are two of the main causes or these are two of the main problems, that's position as well. But the idea development, I think, I think that's definitely something that comes with experience with IELTS teachers, because students learn a certain format, there's a certain template sometimes that the students will follow, and it rarely allows them to take their ideas further. So the way that we teach in the live classes by using those questions, I think really helps them to take their idea as far as it can go. And I've seen your classes where you're really encouraging them to explain why, explain how with an example, and then add another step to it. Can you talk about how you tell them, how you teach idea development?
Well, firstly, in order to develop well the ideas, planning has to be done. And in neurolinguistics, we study this. Our mindset functions in different ways. So during the planning, it's like a rush mode. You're brainstorming, you're jotting down your ideas. So your mindset functions in a different way. Once you start writing, it changes mode and we go into like a flow mode. And if you don't make a plan and you start writing without the plan, you have to stop, generate ideas, and then go back. So your mindset goes back and forth. We don't realize this, but it's time consuming, it's exhausting, and the results are disastrous. So, yeah. So in order to develop well the ideas, you need to plan previously.
Mm-hmm.
So task response depends upon a good plan, generating a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of just getting used to it, doing practice and learning how to make a plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Very vital step. I think in the test situation, particularly if the students haven't practiced before, there's such a instinct to just go straight into writing, and as you said, that is disastrous, and it's immediately clear to an examiner when a piece of writing is unplanned. It's an absolute mess, and it's going to compromise not only task response but also coherence and cohesion, the score in that one as well, because of the disorganization.
So once they have the plan done, then they're going to start to write. So they're going to start the topic sentence, they're going to put in the reason, an example. Now, we want them to extend this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we want them, but IELTS, the criteria asks for that. And then they have to, that's when they take a few seconds and they ask themselves, okay, so what is the consequence of this? What is the impact? And automatically it extends the main idea because it's a sequence. You put in a topic sentence, you put the reason, you put the example. Suddenly you stretch it out a little bit more, but stretch it out with relevant information because you're showing the impact, the consequence, the results. So it can't be more relevant. It's the best way to put relevance into it as well.
Yeah, and such a difference from a paragraph that contains, 3 or 4 ideas that haven't gone through those steps of explanation and example and effect that will really take it that next level. And yeah, you're right, up at band 8, band 9, it's looking for a fully developed supported ideas, so not just a list of ideas, definitely. And I think that can make a huge difference, especially from band 6 up to band 7. Really taking an idea as far as it can go is definitely a good thing to do. Onto coherence and cohesion, the linking. So this criterion looks at how well organized ideas are and also how they are glued together. So what would you say are some of the errors that prevent people scoring 7? Why do students score 6 or 5 in this part?
Well, definitely the topic sentences are major. And when the students realize what is the intention of having a topic sentence in their paragraph, that is why you put in a topic sentence, it becomes, some of them say, okay, now I know what I have to do. So the topic sentence means you are introducing to the reader what is going to be discussed in that paragraph. And it's the best way for you to, and then you will link this sentence to the previous paragraph and introduce the next one. So topic sentence is certainly an element that the students have to learn to work on. And it's valuable because it makes the writing so much, it flows much better when you have the topic sentences well structured. And I always tell them, if they get stuck, if they feel that they're stuck, use the simple sentence because we need several structures, and simple structures we also need. So suddenly they shouldn't get stuck. They should elaborate a simple sentence in terms of structure, but with the idea, and they can develop the paragraph and even go back, principally if they're doing the computer-based, go back, because probably then they'll be able to stretch out the sentence a little bit more. But they have to give a big start.
Yeah, so something like there are 2 main reasons for the obesity crisis, or something like that is a nice simple way to introduce the paragraph.
So a simple sentence just to kickstart. And then they'll be able to develop that paragraph. And another thing is that paragraphs don't focus on a single idea. Sometimes they try to put in so many ideas, and that becomes confusing and disastrous once again.
Yeah, and down on a more micro level, I think the use of linking words is also something that, even when they're being used technically correctly, if they're mechanical, which is, they're too obvious, they're firstly comma, secondly comma, we talk about that all the time. I feel like a broken record in the live classes, but that kind of linking, even though it's right, it is called mechanical linking in the criteria. And so the students need to be aware of that. If they want to score 7, the linking has to be more sophisticated than that. So rather than firstly, secondly, it can be one of the in addition to this, another. It's a little bit, and also moving those linkers away from the start of the sentence is something that we work on in a lot of our classes, and makes a huge difference. I think the students can immediately see how much better their work is when the linking is not so obvious.
Pronoun use definitely is an issue also. They're not aware because many of them come from the mother tongue. The verb itself already holds the subject. So they really don't need a subject in the sentence. So the use of pronouns for them is kind of like, it's not very clear. And this is a very important element for coherence and cohesion, is the use of pronouns for English.
Yeah, definitely. Getting all those they and it right in a sentence Yeah, definitely that can cost band 7 for sure.
Yeah.
So in order to
Definitely.
get a band 7 or a band 8, I would sort of tell the students actually look up to band 9 in Coherence and Cohesion, which says uses linking in a way that attracts no attention. I think that's a good way to think about cohesion. So when we look at a really high level paragraph, you can't really spot the linking words. They're not sort of there in lights. They're just integrated, but every sentence holds hands with the sentences around it. So students have that in mind. And then, of course, those basics of clear central topic in each paragraph, topic sentence that's relevant to the topic and also introduces the paragraph. Is there anything else you'd add to help students score a 7 or 8 there?
I think that if they're able to do that, the 7 is, they've got the 7.
Yeah.
At least, if not more, you know, if they really work on these basic elements. And it's not something really complex. Once they learn, they see how they even say, well, this is not hard to get done. No, it's not. But I didn't know I had to do it. So
right.
that's what they say. I didn't know I had to do this. I said, okay, so that's why the method. Just going back a little bit to those successful students, one point that all of them made was that definitely the method, you know, having that structure, the framework for writing, for the essay, that was the turning point, they said, that it really made sense to them. And it made them write faster as well, because they didn't have to think, oh, what comes next? So they already had that in their mind, how to structure the essay and how to write it. So the methods is the highlight of all of the comebacks of the students, the successful students.
Oh, that's good, yeah. And I guess having that structure in mind, it just eliminates the decisions that you've got to make on test day. You've already got enough to think about. You're thinking about grammar, vocab, answering the question. You don't want to be thinking about, you know, what sentence comes after this sentence. So with a lot of practice, that's definitely, it becomes second nature to them.
And that definitely contributes to having successful coherence and cohesion as well. That framework that we have at E2 language.
Yeah. So vocabulary is the next one, lexical resource, vocabulary range and accuracy. This is where it starts to get trickier, I think. I feel like task response and coherence cohesion, as you said, often they just don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They haven't read the criteria, or, you know, it's not all that clear in the criteria. But when we get into vocab and grammar, this is where there are often kind of fossilized errors, or there could be big gaps in knowledge that need to be closed as well. So I guess the keys to scoring well are demonstrating range and also demonstrating accuracy. So what can be done for those students who are scoring a 6 in lexical resource? How can they reach a 7?
Well, firstly, they have to avoid repetition. That's definitely, because then it goes into the range. But they also have to understand what is accuracy, because some of them, it's not clear what is accuracy, what is vocabulary accuracy. So there's a very simple example that I like to mention, and it's like, okay, so tell me about the public transport in your city. Oh, no, it's good. No, it's not good. It's efficient. It's cost benefit. So that's what it comes down to when we talk about vocabulary accuracy. It's not you just don't use those good, bad, some, you know, interesting. You have to get away from those simple words and really identify what they're referring to and try to explain it as if it were a painting, so that the vocabulary will be more accurate. So that's the first. They have to understand the concept of vocabulary accuracy.
Yeah, precision is really important. I think there can be confusion, and this is where a bit of mixed messaging comes in. You said repetition is one thing, but a lot of students are under the impression that if they use a word once, they can never use it again through the essay, or if there's a word in the question, then you can't use it in the essay, which is not the case at all. You know, you have to repeat vocabulary, of course. Words like people and children, you can't start bringing in weird synonyms for that, but definitely minimizing how many times you use the same word in the same sentence is important. And building range, I think, is comes back to reading as well. So if you're if your vocabulary is a band 6 vocabulary, then it's not suddenly going to change to band 8 without any input. You know, input is going to lift your vocabulary and therefore lift your score. But there's not a quick solution the way that there is in task response and coherence cohesion in some cases.
No. And that's another element that we study in neurolinguistics is how do you incorporate and how do you learn foreign language vocabulary? And studies have shown us that in order to really, incorporate vocabulary, you have to be exposed 50 times to that word for it to really become part of your vocabulary. So in either be it listening, saying the word, reading the word, you need to be exposed at least 50 times according to research. So it takes hard work.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about sorry, I cut you off.
Just quickly a vocabulary issue. They think that they have to put in weird, sophisticated words, like those things of plethora. I don't know where this comes from, but
YouTube,
definitely not. Yes, YouTube, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's something else that I would like to point out, that definitely not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound natural. It doesn't work.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah. Sometimes, simple is best, and putting together a combination of weird words is not going to get you points. It has to be precise. It has to be appropriate. Let's talk about grammar. Possibly the biggest stumbling block for a lot of students. As you mentioned before, error density is something that is flat out going to prevent a band 7. Band 7, you have to have frequent error-free sentences. Band 8, you have to have majority of error-free sentences. So this is something easy to spot when, the assessments come back to the students. They can see from the teacher, there's errors everywhere. Or there might be just a couple of errors, which is a better indication. So grammatical accuracy, what can students do? So when you're marking the assessments and you mentioned articles, or you might spot errors with verb tenses or punctuation, what can they do to eliminate those problems?
Like I said, firstly, they have to be aware of these mistakes, and they have to understand that grammar it's like the basics. So some of them feel that they go to study the articles and it seems so simple, but they're just not getting it enough. So they really have to understand the basics. When to use an indefinite article, when to use a definite. It has to be very clear. And they have to practice. And they have to practice those, they may feel repetitive exercises, fill in the gaps or this and that. It's the only way to really, get grammar right. It's through a lot of practice and knowing the rules. You have to know the rules and study the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think writing as well, sort of free writing is an important step to take I think a lot of the old textbooks, the grammar textbooks, there was a lot of just following a pattern, and the students could get it. I could probably do it in another language, just following a pattern, but then producing it, writing it myself or saying it myself, often we would, used to see in the traditional classroom, the wheels would just fall off at that point. So giving that chance to have a go, write it, which we do in the live classes, like here's a sentence, you have a go, and we check in the chat box rather. You can see who's got it and who hasn't, and slowly help them to close that gap.
Definitely. So the basics, they really need to focus and learn the basics. And even if it sounds repetitive, but the basics of grammar will guarantee that they will be able to write or build or, construct the sentences grammarly accurate. And that's what they need to do. So they really have to focus on this.
And what about range, which is the other aspect in this criterion? How do they demonstrate range in writing?
So regarding grammar, right? So that's another issue. It's about the sentence structures then. They have to really put in the varied and different sentence structures. And complex, it has to be for the 7. So they have to bring in those. So they have, once again, to learn the basics. What is a conjunction? How to use the conjunction? So once again, it's about the basics.
Mm-hmm.
They have to believe and trust that when we tell them, go to the core skills, watch those videos, and do exercises, that's going to help them improve their grammar.
Yeah, that's such a great resource on the platform, the core skills section. There's dozens and dozens of those little micro lessons that really target a specific grammar point, a really tiny micro point that for some students can make all the difference. Making improvements with articles. There's articles in almost every sentence, so if you can work on that and improve, suddenly the error density is going to drop a lot. And if you can learn how to use a conditional sentence, how to use the passive voice, then your range is increasing as well.
Definitely.
So any final words for students who are, as you said, they can be devastated with being stuck on 6.5, the students who are really looking for a solution? What would you advise them? And I guess it comes back mainly to feedback. What can we offer them?
Well, definitely, first of all, getting feedback. That is, it's the only way that they will be able to see where they're going wrong, understand, and improve. So once again, learning from mistakes, but they need to know where their mistakes are.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't get feedback, they just won't know where the mistakes are, and they won't be able to improve and progress then. So assessments and feedback, that would be essential. It would be, I would say, the only way to really improve your writing is to know where you're going wrong, know how to get that right. So talking and having a tutorial or the live classes with the IELTS specialists at E2 Language, because that's the only way to guarantee that you'll be able to get it right. Is firstly knowing what you have to do, where you're going wrong, and what to do to correct it.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite simple, in fact, but it takes hard work. And there are no shortcuts, you know. Sometimes they'll give me some tips and some tricks. I would love to have that. I would love to be a magician, but that's not it. It really is hard work, no shortcuts, and they have to be focused, persistent, and dedicated.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's sort of a team effort, I guess, the E2 approach, where we really support the students through the live classes. They come and learn that structure. They learn how to work under time pressure, and then into the assessments and the tutorials, they can get that added support. But there's also the expectation that students got to be working. If you just come along to a live class and you just watch and don't do anything, or you skip through and take a screenshot of the sample, what's that going to do for you? It's really, that's not a good use of a live class. But actually doing it and then getting feedback from us, I think is what makes all the difference for the students.
Definitely. And they have to, adopt steps for themselves. So as they practice and as they study, they will be able to have a routine. It really is all about procedure. Mm-hmm. So read the essay prompt, understand the essay prompt clearly. If they have read it once and it's not very clear, they have to go back and read it again, then start to work on your planning, then start writing. So it is about, having a clear view of what has to be done. And that takes practice. And of course, knowing what has to be done. And that's what we do in the live classes with them, right? In the tutorials. Okay, so let's read the essay prompt. Did you understand? No, read it again. And now let's get ready to generate ideas. Now we're ready to write. So we guide them through it. And they have to incorporate this routine and, accept it as really beneficial for them.
Yeah. Let go of bad habits.
Definitely.
So the E2 students or students who are not yet E2 members, and if they want to join your classes, how can they find you? What classes are you teaching at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I love teaching the weekend classes. I really do. I'm teaching Saturdays and Sundays. On Saturdays, task 1, general. On Sundays, task 2. And task 2, I must admit that I have a problem with time management. I must admit, because there are so many questions, and I really don't want to leave any questions unanswered. So please bear with me if you join my class, because I only extend it in order to be able to answer. Sometimes I turn off the recording and I stay answering because it's like I really don't want any students with unanswered questions.
And that's such a big class
on Thursdays,
the weekend. Sorry,
it's a big class, definitely. But also it's a very productive class because the students share experience, and some students, they have so many wonderful ideas. So that's another interesting thing about feedback, because when you get feedback, not only do we point out the mistakes, but we also point out where the student has done a good job. So suddenly he's doing a good job and he's not even aware. So in order for him to continue that, this is good. Keep it up, So it's important that he knows where he's doing well and where he's doing wrong.
So besides the writing classes, are there other live classes where we can catch you?
Yep. The reading class is on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Melbourne time. That's the mock class. So it's a little bit more fast-paced. We try to, we don't go through language skills, but we do go through the methods. And once again, the methods in reading, they are a definite boost to performance. If you learn how to use the methods, your performance will improve significantly. You will really hit your scores. So I highly recommend the mock classes, of course. and sometimes I can do the study group, which I enjoy so much. Taking the study group.
Our weekly study group.
Definitely.
And then tutorials is another way that students can connect with you, and also you run some of the mock speaking tests as part of our speaking intensive package and our mock test.
Definitely, the mock tests I highly recommend, and I think that there are two good moments for the student to take the mock test. Let's suppose he has just started and he has no idea where he stands. So that could be a good moment, so that based on his results, a study plan could be designed for him in particular, for that student in particular. Or if you're like 1 week away from your test and you want to know where you stand as well, you still, when the results come in, you still have time to catch up if you're lagging somewhere. So I think that these are two very good moments to take mock tests.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you, Dr. Anna, for all your insights, and thank you as always for all your work with the E2 students. Do you have any final words?
Oh, it's always such a great pleasure to be with the students and teaching and, developing their skills and seeing their results. That's the most rewarding. As I said, tears of joy are so constant when I get feedback from the students and I see that they have improved and they can move on with their plans. So, and that's one of the wonderful things of being part of the E2 team is having this experience, sharing with them, with the students, and the results. It's all about that. It's all about the students getting, reaching their goals.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we will see you very soon in a live class or a tutorial.
Certainly. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Hopefully you found that podcast useful and helpful. Of course, Alex and Anna are complete experts when it comes to everything IELTS. Anyway, if you need more help, check out e2language.com. I'll see you soon.